Ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters, there comes a time in every life when the skies grow dark, when joy seems distant and pain walks in uninvited, that knocks on your door and doesn't wait for permission. It storms in and sits beside you at the table of your heart. And when it hurts, oh, how it hurts. Some of you are hurting right now. Maybe it's the sting of betrayal. Maybe it's the silent ache of loneliness. Maybe it's grief that has carved a canyon in your soul. Maybe it's the weight of guilt, or maybe it's just the heaviness of life. But I came to tell you tonight, you are not alone. Pain is real, but so is God's presence. He never promised we wouldn't cry, but he promised that those who sow in tears will reap with joy. He never said we wouldn't walk through fire, but he did say, I will be with you in the fire. When it hurts, look to the cross, because the cross is not just a symbol of death. It's a sign that God understands. Jesus wasn't immune to suffering. He was familiar with sorrow, acquainted with grief. He wept, he bled, he hurt, and he did it for you. So when you cry, he knows. When you scream in silence, he hears. When you feel abandoned, he whispers he will never leave you nor forsake you. Your pain has a purpose. I know that might sound strange, but it's true. Just as gold is refined in fire, your faith is being shaped in the flames of suffering. What the enemy meant for evil, God will use for good. Don't give up. You may be bent, but you're not broken. You may be in the valley, but the shepherd is walking with you. You may feel crushed, but in Christ you are not destroyed. There is hope beyond this pain. Tonight, if your heart is heavy, if your soul is weary, if you're walking wounded, turn your eyes to heaven. Reach out not to the world, but to the one who made it. He still heals, he still speaks, still saves, and one day, one glorious day, every tear will be wiped away. Every pain will be redeemed. Every hurt will bow before the throne of the one who conquered it all. Until then, hold on, because when it hurts, God holds you. One, pain is universal because it does not check your bank account, your last name, your status in the world, your education, or the size of your smile. It walks. It doesn't ask permission or wait for an invitation. It simply enters. And when it does, it reminds us all that no matter who we are, where we live, or what we've done, we all bleed the same. We all cry in the dark. We all feel the silent ache that words cannot describe. Because pain is not a respecter of person. Two, from the palace to the prison, from the pulpit to the pew, from the busy street to the quiet room, pain finds its way like a shadow that knows no boundary, like a wind that blows through every crack, every crevice of the human soul. And though we try to numb it, silence it, or hide it beneath the noise of our lives, still it lingers, still it speaks, still it sits with us when the lights go out and the music stops, and we are left with nothing but our tears and the truth that we are not as strong as we thought we were. Three, it does not matter if you are young or old, strong or weak, cheerful or weary. Pain makes no such calculation, because even the child with bright eyes has known the sting of sorrow, and the elder with weathered hands carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken wounds. And behind every handshake, every forced laugh, every I'm fine, there may lie a story, a scar that is not. The world walks away when hearts break, when things get messy, when grief lingers longer than polite conversation allows, but not God. He holds you in the invisible places, in the internal bruises that others miss, in the parts of you that smile in public and fall apart in private. He is there, not with cliches of condemnation, but with mercy that holds and love that listens. For you don't have to earn his nearness. You don't have to fake your way into his presence. You don't have to pretend that you're okay when you're not. Because the one who made your heart is not surprised when it breaks. And the very cracks that you think disqualify you are the places where his light gets in, the spaces where his healing flows, the sacred ground where sorrow becomes a sanctuary and weakness becomes a doorway to the divine. 5, he is near to the brokenhearted, not just aware of them, not just observing from afar, but entering into the sorrow, feeling the weight, knowing the tears, for he himself was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, misunderstood and mistreated, pierced and crushed, and because he suffered. He knows what it means to be human, to be wounded, to be abandoned, and that's why when your world falls apart, you're not alone. You're held by the one who's been there. 6, even when you don't feel him, even when the heavens seem silent and your prayers bounce off the ceiling, even when your heart says, oh, where is God in all this? He is there, not absent, but hidden in the quiet strength that kept you breathing, in the unexpected peace that found you in the dark, in the gentle reminder that someone is praying for you, that you are still here, still standing, still breathing. And even that is evidence of a God who stays. He's near in the waiting room, the hospital bed, near at the grave, near in the sleepless nights and anxious mornings, near when the job is lost and the marriage is cold and the diagnosis feels like a death sentence, near when your soul is too tired to sing, when your strength is gone. When the scripture doesn't make sense and hope feels like a stranger, and yet somehow even there, a still small voice says, I'm with you, I have not left you, I will never leave. 8. So if you are brokenhearted, take heart, not because the pain is small or the suffering is easy, but because the presence of God is not based on your perfection. It is drawn to your desperation. And in the moments you feel most forgotten, you're actually most seen, most loved, most carried. And though the night may last long and the sorrow may be deep, the nearness of God is deeper still, wrapping around you like a holy covering, reminding your heart that you are not forgotten, not forsaken, not invisible. You are his and he is one. These trials, these burdens, these tears that fall like rivers in the night, they feel endless, they feel heavy, they feel like they will never lift. But the word of God declares and eternity confirms that they are temporary, passing. They are light compared to the weight of glory that is being prepared, and though they may last for a season, they are not the end of the story, because what you are walking through is not your final chapter. It is not your final destination. It is not your forever. It is the valley before the victory. Pain may speak loud, but it is not the loudest voice, and suffering may stay longer than welcome, but it is not staying forever. Because what is seen is fading, what is felt is fleeting, but what God is building in the unseen, what God is shaping in the eternal is a glory so rich, so weighty, so lasting that the hurts of today will one day be swallowed up in the joy of forever. And all the groaning, all the wrestling, all the breaking will give way to the brilliance of a king that cannot be shaken. 3, this life is a vapor, a breath, a moment. And while it matters, while every day has divine purpose and every trial carries eternal weight, we must remember that this is not our home. This is not our forever. And when we set our eyes on the eternal, when we lift our gaze above the temporary pain and see the promise of everlasting joy, we begin to walk with a hope that cannot be taken, a peace that cannot be shaken, a confidence that even death itself cannot steal. For your affliction, though it wounds you, is producing something, not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. For every tear you sow in faith, every burden you carry with grace, every battle you endure with trust, is weaving a glory that far outweighs it all, a glory that will not fade. A reward that will not rust, a joy that will not end. Though it may feel like God is silent, he is speaking in eternity, preparing something you cannot yet comprehend, something no eye has seen, no ear has heard, something only heaven can reveal. And God, he never said the road would be easy. He never promised a life without fire or flood, but he did promise that it would not be in vain, that the trials would not be wasted. There is glory being formed. Glory in your endurance, glory in your obedience, glory in your faith that clings to him when nothing makes sense, because that is the faith that pleases him most. 6, every scar will shine, every wound will testify, every silent midnight prayer will echo in eternity. Every choice to love when it was easier to hate, to believe when it was easier to give up, to worship through the weeping, all of it is being recorded in the halls of heaven. Written into the story of redemption, counted as precious in the eyes of the one who holds your eternity. And when you stand before him one day, you will not regret the cross you carried, for it will be exchanged for a crown that does not fade. So don't grow weary in doing good. Don't give up in the middle of the storm. Don't let the enemy convince you that this pain is forever, because it is not. It cannot be, it will not last. But what will last is the glory being birthed in you, the character being formed in you, the eternity that is drawing nearer with every sunrise. And every moment you choose to trust God through your trial, you are declaring to the world and to the heavens that your faith is not rooted in ease, but in the eternal. 8, this trial, this moment, this season, it may break your heart. It may bring you to your knees. It may feel like more than you can bear, but lift your eyes, child of God, for this is not your end. This is not your home. This is not your forever. Because one day the trumpet will sound, the sky will split, the king will return, and the weight of eternal glory will make the worst of earth's sorrows seem like dust in the wind, and you will see him face to face, and it will all make sense, and it will all be worth it. God knows our pain, and not just in theory, not just in distant awareness, not as a bystander watching from beyond the stars, but as the one who formed our frame and wrote our days before we breathed our first. He knows the sorrow behind our smiles, the weight behind our song. The story behind our tears, and though others may walk past what wounds us, though this world may overlook the ache that hides behind closed doors, he sees it all, he feels it all, and he meets us not with judgment, but with mercy that stoops low and love that refuses to leave. 2. There is no bruise hidden from his gaze, no scar too old for his touch, no trauma too deep for his healing, because the same hands that stretched the heavens and flung the stars into being are the hands that cradle your broken heart and wipe your secret tears. And when you cry alone in the middle of the night, wondering if anyone knows, wondering if anyone cares, he is already there, whispering, I see, I know, I'm with you. And his presence becomes the answer your pain has been searching for. 3, he knows the pain of betrayal because he was betrayed by a kiss. He knows the pain of loss because he wept at a tomb. He knows the pain of rejection because he was despised and forsaken. He knows the pain of physical agony because he carried a cross on wounded shoulders. And when you say, well, no one understands, heaven answers, he does. For there is no sorrow you walk through that he has not felt, and no suffering you carry that he has not borne. 4, and because he knows, he cares, not in a passive way, not in shallow sentiment, but in a holy present, burning compassion that moves toward the hurting, that sits with the suffering, that holds the hand of the heartbroken without rushing them through their process, without minimizing their grief, for he is not afraid of your doubts, not offended by your questions, not distant from your depression. He is Emmanuel, God with us, and he is most with us when we feel the most 5, he knows the pain of prayers that seem unanswered, the ache of waiting, the frustration of silence, the longing for a rescue that hasn't come yet. And still he stays, still he listens, still he holds on. Where theology becomes tears and strength feels like surrender, he does his deepest work, not always by removing the pain, but by redeeming it, not always by explaining it, but by entering into it. He is the God who collects every tear in a bottle, who numbers every sigh, who records every sleepless night in his book, and he will not let a single moment of suffering be meaningless. For though it hurts now, though it breaks you now, though it feels like more than you can carry, he is carrying you, sustaining you, surrounding you with grace that holds and power that heals, and a love that doesn't grow tired of your struggle. 7, oh, the world says to move on, to be strong, to get over it. He says, come to me, not when you're fixed, not when you're strong, not when you've figured it all out, but now, broken as you are, confused as you feel, angry if you must be, numb if that's all you've. Just come, because he knows your pain better than you do. And still he chooses to love you in it, to walk with you through it, to promise that you will not be consumed by what you thought would destroy you. 8, so when it hurts so deep you can't find words, when the grief crashes in waves too high to swim, when life has left you gasping and faith feels like a whisper, remember this: God knows your pain, not from a distance, but from the inside, not from above, but beside. And he has never, not once, turned away from the broken, and he never will. For the one who wore thorns on his head and nails in his hands will never ignore the cry of a wounded heart that dares to lift its eyes and whisper, help me. When? Faith in the fire is not the faith that dances when everything's easy, not the kind that only sings on the mountain or praises when the blessings flow, but it's the kind that stands when nothing makes sense, that holds on when the heat rises and there's no visible way out, because real faith is not proven in the comfort and the crisis, not forged in the sunshine, but in the smoke. And it is in the fire that what is false burns away and what is real begins to shine. 2, the fire comes for all of us, not because God is cruel, not because he has forgotten us, but because he knows that there are things inside of us that cannot go with us where he's taking us. Weights we picked up along the way, idols we've hidden in our hearts, fears that have entangled us. And it is in the fire that these things are exposed, not to shame us, but to free us, not to destroy us, but to deliver us. Because what feels like breaking is often God's way of building something stronger than what we had before. 3, he in the fire says that even if he doesn't fix it the way I asked, even if he doesn't show up how I imagined, even if the miracle doesn't come on my timeline, even if I lose what I thought I needed, still I will trust him, still I will serve him, still I will serve him. Still I will believe that he is good, because faith is not bargaining for outcomes, it's surrendering to his will, trusting in his character when his hand feels hidden, standing firm. Not because we understand, but because we've been anchored. 4, you see, the fire does not mean he has left you. It often means he's closer than ever, because the God of the Bible is the one who doesn't stand outside the furnace shouting advice. He steps into it just like he did with Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, and when the heat was turned up, when the king's rage burned hotter than the flames, that was the moment God showed up in the fire, not to pull them out first, but to prove that even in the worst, they were never alone. 5. Faith in the fire does not deny the pain. It doesn't pretend the flames don't hurt. It doesn't fake a smile while the soul screams. No, real faith can weep while it worships, can bleed while it believes, can tremble while it trusts, because faith isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to trust God in the middle of it. It's choosing to lift your hands when everything in you wants to shut down, to lift your eyes when the smoke stings, to lift your voice when your heart feels heavy with ash. 6. And what the enemy meant to consume you, God will use to refine you, and what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn for good. And when you come out of this, you won't smell like smoke. You won't look like what you've been through, because the fire won't define you. It will purify you. It will strip away what was never meant to stay, and it will reveal the faith that endures, the faith that says, oh, my God is able, but even if not, he is still my God. 7. There is something about fire-tested faith that shakes the gates of hell, that silences the lies of the enemy, that declares with every breath, I'm still here, and not because I'm strong, not because I figured it out, but because the God who began this work in me has kept me, is keeping me, will keep me, and when the flames rise again, and they will, I won't fear them like I used to, because I know who stands in the fire with me. I know who brings beauty from ashes, and I know this fire is not forever, but my God is. Hey. So let the fire come, not because I enjoy it, not because I chase it, but because I trust the one who walks in it with me, the one who writes his name on my soul. In the heat of the trial, the one who proves his power, not by sparing me from the furnace, but by sustaining me in it. And though my knees may shake and my voice may crack, I will not bow to fear. I will not quit in the heat, because this faith was born for the fire, and this fire is making something in me that no storm can steal and no enemy can burn. You're not alone, even when the room is full and your soul feels empty, even when the phone is silent and your thoughts are screaming, even when the world moves on and you're still stuck in the pain that they've forgotten, even when you sit in church with a broken heart and a forced smile, wondering if anyone sees you, hears you, knows what you're carrying behind the mask. God does, and he hasn't left, he hasn't blinked, he hasn't turned away for a second, because his presence is not determined by how you feel, but by who he is, and he is the God who never leaves. 2. You're not alone, not in the midnight panic attacks, not in the hospital waiting rooms, not in the divorce papers on the table, not in the graveside goodbyes, not in the long drive home, after getting the news that shattered your world. Because the same God who stood with Daniel in the lion's den and walked with Paul in prison is standing with you, and you may not see him with your eyes or feel him in your skin, but faith reminds you that he is closer than the breath in your lungs, more present than the pain in your chest. 3. You're not alone, and I know sometimes you pray and nothing changes. Sometimes you cry and nobody calls. Sometimes you reach and find no hand to hold. And it feels like your heart is breaking in 1,000 pieces while everyone else carries on like nothing happened. Mm-hmm. But don't mistake silence for absence, and don't confuse waiting with abandonment, because the God who knit you together in your mother's womb is the same God who now catches every tear. And his love does not grow distant in the valley. It grows deeper. 4. You're not alone, not when you fail, not when you fall, not when you relapse, not when you lose it all, because grace doesn't walk away when you mess up. It pulls you closer, and mercy doesn't wait for you to figure it out. It meets you right where you're falling apart. And even when everyone else has had enough of your brokenness, when they walk out or shut the door or stop answering, he is still there, still calling you his, still fighting for your soul in the silence. 5. You're not alone. Even when the enemy whispers lies in the dark, even when the depression tells you there's no way out, even when your thoughts try to convince you that the world would be better without you, but God is the still small voice that speaks life when death surrounds you. And he is the light that doesn't leave when the darkness lingers. And his word stands over your life with promise and power and purpose. Even when you feel like a burden, even when you feel like you're too much or not enough, he says, you are mine. 6, you're not alone. And even when the battle feels like it's more than you can bear, when you're tired of fighting and ready to give up, when hope feels like a dream for other people, but not for you, there is one who stands in the gap for you, who intercedes when you're too weak to pray, who carries you when you can't take another step, who holds you through the storm and anchors you through the fear. Because this is not just the feel-good idea. This is the unshakable truth of a God who walks with his people through every season. 7, you're not alone. And maybe you've been abandoned by people, betrayed by those who swore they'd stay, overlooked by those who should have seen you. But God has never left, not for a second, not in your worst sin or your lowest point, not when you cursed him or questioned him or doubted him. And he is not standing at a distance waiting for you to crawl back. He is running toward you with arms wide open, whispering, I've been with you all along, and I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone. Not today, not tonight, not ever, because the same hands that stretched wide on a cross are the same hands that hold you now. And the same voice that called Lazarus from the grave is the same voice speaking life over you in your tomb of despair. And the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead is the same spirit living in you, breathing in you, standing beside you in the fight. And though your eyes may be full of tears and your heart may feel hollow, your soul can still stand tall and say with boldness, I am not alone. God is with me. 1. Pain is not the end of the story. Pain is not where you stop. Pain is not the grave where your destiny dies, but the ground where your purpose is planted. And though the ache may be deep and the wound may feel unbearable and the loss may leave you breathless, there is a God who does not waste your tears, who does not overlook your suffering, who does not sit idle while you bleed, but instead gathers every drop of sorrow and begins to weave it into a tapestry that stretches beyond this moment, beyond this day, beyond this life. Because what the enemy meant for harm, God will use for healing, not just for you, but through you. 2, you didn't choose the pain. You didn't ask for the betrayal, the abandonment, the diagnosis, the depression, the divorce, the silence, the death. But even in what you didn't choose, you are still chosen. And God can take the pieces of what broke you and shape them into a weapon against the very darkness that tried to destroy you. Because your greatest wounds can become your greatest witness, and your greatest battles can become the platform where his glory shines the brightest, not when everything is perfect, but when everything is surrendered. 3, turning pain into purpose doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt, doesn't mean minimizing the heartbreak or denying the depth of what you've walked through. It means daring to believe that it didn't happen for nothing. It means standing in the rubble and choosing to build again. It means letting your scars speak instead of your shame and using your story not after it's cleaned up and polished, but right in the middle of the process, right in the mess, because someone needs to know that hope still breathes in the broken places. 4, God doesn't call the pain good, but he promises to bring good from it. And that promise stands even when you don't see how, even when the healing feels far, even when the pieces are still shattered, because he's not just in the business of fixing, he's in the business of transforming. And what once was your prison can become your pulpit. What once was your storm can become someone else's shelter. And the very tears that soaked your pillow can become the living water someone else drinks when they think they can't make it through. 5, this isn't about being strong for the sake of strength. This isn't about pretending you're okay when you're still bleeding inside. This is about letting God take what the world said was the end and show you that it was only the beginning. Letting him breathe on the ashes and turn them into a fire that lights the way for others. Letting him redeem what hurt you into something that helps someone else heal. Because your purpose is not found in avoiding pain, but in trusting God to bring meaning through it. There's a reason the enemy attacked you so hard in that area. There's a reason the trial was so relentless, the loss so devastating, the warfare so intense, because the very place of your deepest pain is often the birthplace of your highest calling. And once you realize that the pit was never your permanent address, but the preparation for the platform, then you'll stop seeing your scars as shame and start seeing them as signs of survival, of victory, of purpose that cannot be silenced by suffering. 7, so don't despise your story. Don't bury the testimony that came from the trial. Don't hide the part of your past that still feels raw, because God wants to use all of it. Not just the healed parts, not just the highlight reel, but the real, the raw, the bruised, the breaking, the questions you still don't have answers for. He wants to use it because there's someone on the other side of your obedience, someone who needs to know they're not alone, someone who will find light because you refuse to let the darkness win. 8, pain is not the end. It is the place where purpose begins. And when you surrender your story, when you offer your brokenness, when you bring the pieces to the feet of the one who makes all things new, he will take what was meant to destroy you and make it the very thing that delivers others. He will take what tried to bury you and use it to build something eternal, and your pain will no longer be your prison. It will be your platform, your purpose, your praise, not because it didn't hurt, but because God never let it go to waste.